Welcome to Share the Health, a new podcast from the Ross County Health District, where we discuss health issues that affect our community. I'm your host, Sarah Smith. Today I'm joined by President and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of South Central Ohio, Erin Allsop, and Ross County Health District Public Health Nurse, Denise Ruby. Welcome, Erin and Denise.
Good morning.
Thanks. Wonderful to have you here. So let's get started. Erin, how long have you been with Big Brothers Big Sisters?
I have been with Big Brothers Big Sisters of South Central Ohio for the past almost 5 years. I will complete 5 years at the end of May.
Can you describe your role with the agency?
Of course. My role is president and CEO. So mostly I am working with sponsors and donors, grants and funding for the agency. And I oversee our staff. We have a staff of 7 who do the boots on the ground work.
Have you always wanted to work with youth?
I love working with youth. My professional history is mostly in education along with missions. So I love working with youth. I have kids of my own, and I see an importance of connecting with the youth that we have. The youth that we have specifically at Big Brothers Big Sisters are especially important because they're not going to be moving away from our community most likely. So by working with our youth that we have, we really are investing in the future that we are going to have. So yeah, I've always really enjoyed that a lot. I see a value and importance in that. Yeah.
Sounds like you've got a lot of experience working with kids. So that's great. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face as directing Big Brothers Big Sisters?
The largest challenge that we have really is recruiting volunteers, because Big Brothers Big Sisters is a nonprofit agency, and our work really does rely on the volunteers that we work with. That is really the biggest challenge that we have. So if you are out there listening and you are looking for a way to give back to your community and get involved and make a difference in somebody's life, this is a great opportunity for you. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, at the end. But aside from recruiting volunteers and retaining volunteers, we are seeing a huge surge in mental health challenges that our youth are dealing with, and just really being informed, being trained, and knowing how to support them and their families as they go through young adulthood and youth is really becoming a bigger and bigger challenge for us.
So it sounds like a perfect segue into adding Denise into the conversation, our public health nurse. So Denise, what does adolescent health resiliency mean?
Well, resiliency, specifically in adolescence, obviously referring to adolescents, I like to think of resilience as if you think the road of life can get bumpy at times, which it can, having resilience is like having good shock absorbers, because things are going to happen. You're going to get off track. You're going to hit some bumps. You may get lost in the pothole for a while. But what is your capacity to kind of bounce back from that? So we really want to try to help foster that, because we know things are going to happen. We know life can be hard sometimes, but what can we do to help as adults to help kids foster that? Because it's not something you're born with.
This question would be for both of you. How important is it for adolescents and teens to have a trusted adult figure in their lives?
Well, the training that I provide, it's created by the Center for Family Safety and Healing up at Columbus Nationwide Children's Hospital, and that's really the number one. If there's 5 top factors, the number one thing is having a trusted adult in your life. So, and I know we've all probably heard stories, people have talked about, maybe they had challenges earlier in their life, but there was that one person, maybe that one teacher or that one janitor, or just one bus driver, one person somewhere that was safe, that believed in them, and it can make all the difference.
Yeah, and I would say, coming from the mentorship side, we are so excited that there are so many studies coming out now expressing the need for mentorship and the importance of mentorship. Some of the statistics that we've seen lately, 74% of young people lack access to mentorship, which is really astonishing, because a lot of kids, we think, they have great parents or they have a great family structure around them, but still 74% are lacking that access. And a lot of times, parents, even if you're a great parent and have a healthy relationship with your child, your kid still needs another trusted adult in their life, because they don't feel like they can always talk to you about everything, because you're already, choosing a side, at least in their mind. So they sometimes need that unbiased adult opinion. As a parent, I love that my kids have other trusted adults in their lives who I know, who I trust also. I just think that is so vitally important. We've also seen that 3 in 4 youth say they wish they had more opportunities to connect with a mentor. So we're so excited about these studies that are coming out to support what we're doing and the ability to access more trainings like Denise is offering and stuff like that.
I think that's encouraging too, that you say the data shows that kids want that connection, because sometimes I think maybe adults think, oh, they don't want to talk to me. They just want to talk to kids their own age. But I think that's very telling, the figures that you just gave, that they really do want that connection with an adult.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Our kids are living in a virtual world more and more. And sometimes that doesn't make sense, or it seems silly to us because it's not the way it was when we were younger. But the lack of real in-person community is starting to show on our kids in the mental health realm and just the relational realm. So the fact that they are starting to realize that, whether consciously or subconsciously, is really, really telling. And we need to step in now as the adults. We need to not be lazy about it. We need to not be slow about it. We need to really step in and give them what they need.
Denise, with the Adolescent Health Resiliency Grant, what's the source of funding for that program?
So it's a grant from the Ohio Department of Health. The original award, was $150,000 of 3 years, so per year. And we are winding down. This is the 3rd year. In September, it will be, that'll be the end of this grant. There will be a new grant. We're not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but we are hoping to see maybe a little bit more peer involvement where, again, adolescents are teaching other adolescents about resiliency, because, again, we know we need trusted adults, but sometimes a message coming from a peer, can hit differently. So, if we're all kind of singing on the same, from the same sheet of music, so to speak, trauma-informed, being aware, again, it's so desperately needed right now.
What kinds of training do you offer to the community for adolescent health resiliency?
So right now, the grant is for us to provide either a 1 to about a 1.5 hour training session. It is a PowerPoint, but it can be interactive. So we do have some questions to pose to the group, for some discussion. But it's really engaging information, and nearly everybody that's taken the training has learned several things and felt like it was very valuable. And I would also say not only for dealing with adolescents, but perhaps other adults in their lives as well, because we know adolescents grow up to be adults. And, it's really growing and kind of healing is a lifelong process. So learning to be resilient.
And I'll put a plug in for Denise's training. Yeah. She has provided this training for our staff. And I think I totally agree. It is absolutely necessary and helpful and useful, no matter what area of life you find yourself in, for educators, for parents, for health workers, for anyone really in the community who is in close contact with youth, but also young adults and early adults, early middle-aged adults. Any of this training can be very helpful because it really does focus on how to relate and support each other.
So is this training open to anyone?
Yeah, really. Anyone that wants to. Now, generally speaking, we do it in groups, so they can always kind of come in with another group potentially. But yeah, ideally it's nice to have a group of 10 or more, but it's not an absolute requirement. And like I said, we can kind of layer on. So the grant gives us a lot of flexibility in that. So
it's open to anyone, parents, teachers, right, youth workers, coaches.
Anybody, yep. Anybody who's interested in the information.
And it's free?
And it's absolutely free. Yep.
Well, how about that? You can't beat that.
And at this point, too, we still have, we're giving each person that wants one a book. It's called What Happened to You. It's by Dr. Perry and Oprah Winfrey, and it's kind of a conversation about trauma. And the idea being, instead of looking at somebody and asking them, well, what is wrong with you? Why are you acting this way? Especially maybe when an adolescent's acting out. think to yourself, well, what might have happened to that person, or, why are they reacting that way? So it's usually not about you. There's something else going on.
What are some skills that adults can expect to gain from the adolescent health resiliency trainings that you offer?
Well, there's some very concrete tools, actually. One is called the anger onion. It's talking about how when we look a little bit deeper, what's underneath the anger, maybe starting to question. So again, really getting curious instead of getting judgmental, really. That's the basic thing. And it's a lot easier to do when we as adults show up regulated ourselves. So that's why, again, looking at our own little anger onion, what sets us off? And maybe stopping and asking why. Can we get out of that area of reactivity or stop long enough to notice those things? Those are skills that we can practice, skills kids can practice as well. The other one besides anger onion is a hand-brain model, which kind of uses your hand to demonstrate different portions of the brain and how when our thinking, rational brain, when we get what we sometimes call triggered, and I don't really like that word. I would prefer to say maybe, our nervous system has been activated or our fight or flight. But we know that when we're in that state, that's not a time to reason with someone, but that's everyone's, usually our first instinct is to tell a person to calm down, but that never works. So really kind of thinking about those things and making, taking some time to process that so that next time something happens, you remember, I better not try to tell them to do anything or ask them what they're thinking because their thinking brain is not really on the line right now. And you can even recognize it in yourself as well. So I think, like I said, those are really good tools. And then something else called the safety triangle, making sure you have like a safe face. I notice your facial expressions when you're talking with someone, your voice, as well as your posture. Do you have your hands across your chest, arms folded over, hands on your hips? Are you standing over someone? All those little things, again, just, being just a little bit more compassionate and just, again, not jumping to conclusions when we're dealing with kids or folks, especially if they're, I would say, acting out or if they're in distress in some way.
Not exacerbating what they're feeling at that moment or antagonizing them.
Right. But I think, again, healthy understanding that, it's good. It's important to have feelings. How can we support that,
Yeah, and I would add to that, a lot of adults in these professions that deal with people in general, especially youth, intellectually, we know all of these things, but this training is a really good reminder that empathy is not a 10 in all of us. Some people are naturally more inclined to empathy and others are not. And so personally, I'm not a super empathetic person all the time. And so it's a good reminder that I have to kind of check myself and remember my facial expressions are important. If I'm having a hard conversation, sitting with my hands open in my lap calms my whole body and it allows me to think with a more open mind and hear and see what is happening in the other person. Sometimes that anger that comes out is not, it might be directed at me, but it's not because of me. And so I don't need to fight necessarily.
Right.
And so I think just a reminder that that empathy is so important when dealing with relationships in general.
Right.
It sounds like a lot of these skills would be helpful, not just dealing with adolescents, but other adults.
Absolutely.
So this sounds like these skills could translate over basically all of your relationships.
Right.
I totally agree. I mean, the way we always say this to our bigs, to our mentors, you're building a new relationship. It's a new friendship. It's a new relationship in your life. And it's just like any relationship, you have to have understanding. You have to have communication. And so when dealing with kids, they are becoming adults. So a lot of those things are not developed, those skills and those emotions are not developed as much as an adult. And we have to remember that we have to kind of scale it back a little bit in order to deal with.
And that reminds me, there's something else that we call name it to tame it. In other words, really looking at, because emotional literacy, because sadly, I think there are people who probably live their entire lives and are never really in touch with what they're feeling. They're either suppressing it. And again, those things that happened early in our life, sometimes we just didn't get quite what we needed. didn't get that reassurance, whatever it is. And again, if that can be interrupted, if that can process, especially, the younger a person is, the sooner we have supportive adults in a kiddo's life, again, makes all the difference. So.
And I think that's one area that social media is doing us an injustice. I think our kids are relying on social media for relationships, so they're not learning how to navigate relationships and friendships in real life. They're not learning how to fail appropriately. We're all going to fail at some point, but when you don't practice failing as a 5-year-old, you don't know how to fail when the stakes are bigger as a 10-year-old, and then you don't know how to fail when the stakes are even larger as a 25-year-old. We're not building on those basic skills of breaking up or failing,
just having a difficult conversation, sharing your feelings,
telling somebody that you're disappointed in them,
even
or
talking on the
hearing that
phone,
you have disappointed somebody, lying and admitting that, oh, I lied about that. I mean, just the little things that that you are supposed to learn throughout childhood, we're not learning in the same way. And I do give a lot of blame to social media for that.
100%. Yeah. I feel like with the mentorship, that can help a lot, helping a kid process rejection, because even though it stinks, it's going to happen to all of us.
Right.
And I think having the mentor in your life, it can help you process it, not just in the moment, but give you good coping mechanisms like going forward. And something else that you mentioned, Erin, earlier about how older generations didn't have the social media and the same types of social mechanisms that the younger kids do now. I think they can do a great job encouraging kids to not be as intimidated, because it's scary to go face rejection, like to ask a girl out on a date or a guy out on a date, or to try to make new friends, introduce yourself. So I think maybe some of those older generations can be very helpful to kids to show them, hey, yeah, it feels scary, but the benefits are worth it to put yourself out there and to introduce yourself and try to make new friends and face-to-face interactions. So that was something that came to mind when you were talking about that earlier, because it is way different.
It is, and it's vitally important. In building a relationship, when I was in kindergarten, there was a new girl who didn't know anyone, and I've stayed acquaintances with her throughout our adulthood, and we've mentioned how funny it is because on the first day of kindergarten, I went up and I said, "Do you want to be our friend?" I honestly don't even remember this interaction. She reminded me of it, but just something like that, like kids are becoming friends through a screen, and so they know each other and they know things about each other without having to ever say, "Hey, do you want to be my friend?" to a face. And the reverse is also true. They're breaking up with each other on a text or on a social media post. And there's just so much lost in the lack of human interaction. And I think that's where mentorship especially can step in to have that connection, have that relationship in a real way.
Yeah, well, and Denise was talking about body language being part of the resiliency training. And I think that could even be lost with kids interacting through a screen so much.
They don't necessarily know how to, do they recognize certain cues necessarily? So, those are skills,
As adults, how many times have you read a text and been offended because there's no context in a text of the person's facial expressions, or without an emoji, you don't know if that was a joke.
And you certainly can't get a hug virtually.
Right, exactly.
It's not the same.
We say sending virtual hugs, but yeah, sometimes just a person sitting there, especially when someone has had some big feelings, you don't need to say anything. Sometimes it's just being there, and you can't get that.
Yeah, healthy touch is so important also.
Right. Yep.
Gearing into the mentorship process for Big Brothers Big Sisters a little, what are some of the requirements to be a mentor?
So we have 2 programs, which I was glad that Denise talked about that peer-to-peer interaction also. Our first program is school-based mentoring. And with our school-based mentoring, sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school are signed up as the mentors, the bigs. So they are usually nominated by their teachers or their administrators as being the role model students. So it's a great opportunity for them to gain more leadership skills and earn community service credit. And then they are connected in a one-to-one friendship with a little who is in elementary or middle school. They spend 1 hour a week in a supervised setting because the bigs are also minors. Everything is supervised. They're not allowed to have interactions with their little outside of the school setting. And then our community-based program is our more traditional program. The mentors for our community-based program have to be at least 19. And one of the exciting things that we've seen this year is a lot of our school-based mentors are becoming community-based mentors as they graduate. And so that's a really exciting thing for us to see that transition from being a school-based mentor to a community-based. So community-based mentors have to be 19. We ask for them to commit to a year with us, matched with their little, and an average of 1 hour a week spent with their little. Of course, that can be more. We encourage that to be more, especially as the friendship grows. And it can look different depending on the mentor and the family that they are working with. There's a lot of freedom and flexibility. Some of our mentors spend, an hour after school every Wednesday with their little, and they go to the library and work on homework, or they take the dog for a walk on the flood wall. Other of our mentors communicate with their little every week, but only spend time together once or twice a month, but for a longer period of time. So there is a lot of flexibility. The main things really are just at least 19, an hour a week average, and a year commitment. So.
For the peer-to-peer mentorship, they could also attend the Adolescent Health Resiliency training.
Sure. There actually is one of our counties, Clark County, that also got the grant, has several partners they're working with, and that would be something I would talk to the Center for Family Safety and Healing about, but I think that's doable because she did actually get approval for them to be able to do that. And the adolescents actually suggested a few changes, and so they incorporated those, and then they were able to provide the training to kids themselves. So a peer-to-peer type thing. So that's really great, I think. So,
how does the matching process work? Matching a potential mentor to a child?
When mentors apply to be a big brother or a big sister in our program, we do a lot of screening, of course. We do reference checks. We do background checks to make sure they are safe adults to be with a child. But we also do an interview, and the interview's objective is really to get to know the adult, to get to know what kind of history they have, what kind of challenges they may face, but also what their hobbies are, what their family situation is, what their goals in life are. And then we do the same thing with our littles. When our littles come into the program, we do an interview with them and with a parent to find out what kind of trauma they might have in their history, as well as if they are more into sports or more into art, and just to know them a little bit more. Once our littles are in our program, we are able to spend a lot of time with them. So we are able to, as a staff, able to take them out on outings and to activities. The ones who attend those, we get to know fairly well. So we know their personality. And then it is not first come, first served. It really is based on who we think will work well together. Just like any friendship, like I was saying earlier, any friendship grows based on things that you have in common, shared interests and shared personality traits. Sometimes opposites can attract, of course, but we want to try to make this as easy as possible. So if we have a little sister who is really girly and into arts and crafts, we want to pair her with a big sister who has the same interests, so that it makes sense for them to go and get their nails done together, or go to Hobby Lobby and get a craft supplies and make something together. Or if we have a little brother who's really outdoorsy but doesn't have the opportunity to go hunting and fishing, we want to find a big brother who is interested in those things so that he can share his passion with a little brother and just build on that.
What can mentors expect going in?
I would say the biggest thing mentors can expect is for their lives to be changed. We hear so much about, I wanted to get into this because I wanted to make a difference in a little's life, which is absolutely great and will happen. What people don't realize is how a child can impact your life. Having a relationship with a child can change how you view the world and how you have empathy for other people and stuff like that. So a mentor can expect to have good support from my staff. We connect with them on a monthly basis just to make sure that we fill in any gaps, and if they have any questions or need ideas, that we're there to support them in that way. They can expect to meet a child who is unique, who has challenges and successes just like any other person in the world. They can probably expect to meet somebody and a family situation that may be completely different from their own. So their world is going to be opened and brightened and changed. But they really can expect to develop a relationship if everyone is moving in the same direction. They can expect to develop a relationship that hopefully will be with them for the rest of their lives, and that really will change the way they view the world.
You mentioned a little bit earlier how often most of the mentors meet with their littles, but are there other expectations of mentors, and can that look different from match to match?
Yeah, I would say that definitely looks different from match to match. We do offer activities every month that everyone is invited to participate in, but really, it really will depend on the needs of the child, the desires of the family, what the mentor will encounter, and what they should expect.
Denise, Erin had mentioned about how going in, most of the mentors' motives were to change a child's life, but then they were changed in turn. In facilitating some of the adolescent health resiliency trainings, have you had any valuable takeaways that you've gained from the training sessions while you're there to educate them? Have you had any takeaways like that where some things have maybe changed you or changed your perspectives in teaching the course?
Well, I think I was struck by how still the idea that we should be independent and still can, even after having the training, and that there's some specific things I say about that, resilience doesn't happen in isolation, and that we need other people in our lives. But still, some folks, after we do like a pre-test, it's not a hard test, it's just a few questions, asking maybe to see kind of where they're at with their knowledge and their assumptions. But even the post-test, sometimes the one statement was something along the lines of, you need to be independent to be resilient. And it's like, that's absolutely not true. So I've learned that I really need to emphasize that point, and also encourage folks to really, notice the assumptions that they have about themselves and other people as well. And again, other people's actions and motivations. We make an awful lot of assumptions, but we don't know the whole story. And we don't necessarily have to know the whole story, again, to be compassionate and to have some empathy and to help, especially maybe someone who's having a rough time, at least if not helping them, not making it worse, right? So that's just one thought that kind of really stuck out to me. We just have these ideas that, you've got to be strong. And it's not about being strong. It's about being connected to, because we're social animals, right? I mean, we know that infants, if they don't get care and attention and holding and physical closeness, and that socialization, they're not going to thrive. So anything that we can do, again, I just feel like I'm really excited, like I said, about this training and where things are going. So,
Big Brothers Big Sisters has a big event coming up. Erin, would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Our Bowl for Kids' Sake fundraiser is coming up on March 8th. This is our family-friendly fundraiser, I always like to say. We have Dance for Kids' Sake in the fall, which is more adult-oriented, but this is a come with your family, your group of friends event. Teams have to raise a minimum of $300 to participate. And with that $300 donation to our organization, teams get 2 hours of bowling, along with pizza pop, a chance to win some prizes, and a T-shirt to support the event. All of the money that we raise at both of our Dance for Kids' Sake and Bowl for Kids' Sake stays completely local and supports our programming in the area of greatest need. So it really does go directly to providing activities for our kids, experiences for our kids. And it's a fun way to come together with your coworkers or your family or your friends.
Are there other ways that the community can get involved, like with monetary donations, or if they have do you do raffles as well at the event?
We do raffles at the event. And of course, any monetary donation does support our agency's programming. We cover more than Ross County. We cover also Pike County, Highland County, Pickaway County, and Fayette County, in addition to Ross. And yes, they're on our website, which is www.bbbssco.org. There are ways to support financially also.
So one final question for both of you together. What points would you like to emphasize most about adolescent health to listeners, or things that you think are most important with relating to youth in our community?
I would say the more we invest, whether that's in monetary form or relational form, in our youth now, the fewer issues and challenges we're going to have in the future. So I am promoting mentorship. I think that whether you're doing it in a formal setting like Big Brothers Big Sisters or Paper City Mentoring Project, or as a coach or as a youth leader at a church or a teacher, in whatever way, I think the more that we mentor our kids and guide them, the more resilient and healthy they are going to grow up to be as adults.
Yeah, and I would say too, the studies that have been done, those on adverse childhood experiences, we know the results have been replicated numerous times. So the fact is that if you have had some of those adverse things happen, and that could be anything from divorce, death of a parent, incarcerated parent,
moving,
big. It could be abuse or neglect. It could be the little things. It could be the big things. But the more of those things that happen, again, we know if we don't kind of intervene and support that adolescent or that kiddo, they may grow up and get the help that they need, but they're kind of starting out behind the eight ball, so to speak. A life is hard enough without having to work through, some of these things by yourself, And again, a lot of people, they end up simply kind of shutting off whole parts of themselves and numbing themselves. And we see all of the different types of addictive behaviors. Now we even see, kids are addicted to their phones or games or whatever. It's the same kind of thing. It's like you're filling your day with whatever these things are. So we know, those types of habits or behaviors are really just a cry for help. And again, the first step is simply being there, and kind of helping let them guide what it is that they need, what are they feeling. Again, someone who's kind of been there helps, right?
Yeah, we can't change those experiences that our kids have. Some of them have been chosen for them. Some of them just happen because of accidents or life. But supporting them appropriately, sometimes that means saying the hard things and holding them accountable too for their participation or their involvement. But supporting them and holding them accountable is so vital to recovery.
If someone's interested in becoming a big brother or big sister, what should their next step be?
Next step would be calling our office at 740-773-2447 or visiting our website, www.bbbssco.org, and getting a hold of Kristen, who is our enrollment specialist, and she will walk you through the steps.
Perfect. For anyone in the community interested in participating in the Adolescent Health Resiliency Training, what should their next step be?
They can call us at Public Health Nursing, 740-775-1146, and you can ask for Denise, or you could email me at druby, R-U-B-Y, at rosscountyhealth.org. So we'd be happy to come and talk to you. So thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much for both of you taking the time to chat today. It's been very informative.
Thank you.
For more information about Big Brothers Big Sisters, visit bbbssco.org. And for more information about the Ross County Health District, visit our website at rosscountyhealth.org for more information about our programs and services. Until next time, take care and share the health.